Hello, and welcome to the 48th episode of Speedify Live, the show where we talk all about live streaming and how to do it and how to get better at it and how to build your audience. Our very special guest tonight is Stu Grubbs, the CEO and co-founder of LightStream, which makes both LightStream, the live streaming app we're using right now to make this stream, and Rainmaker, which is a different app for engaging with your audience and things. And I think we're mostly going to talk about LightStream tonight. How you doing, Stu?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So where are you today?
Chicago. Our team's mostly remote, but I happen to be here in Chicago, Illinois.
Right. All right. I'm in Philly, as usual, in the Speedify studio. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into products? Like, how did you get into all of this?
Sure. Well, I'm a computer engineering dropout. Loved the gaming industry. Loved writing about the gaming industry. And a friend found me in a IRC chat room and invited me to start writing about various gaming hardware that was coming out and how that could give you an edge in various games. The short version of the story is that led to me meeting a lot of really interesting people, eventually having a career in product development as well as marketing and a lot of creative marketing. And so I was most recently, before founding Lightstream, at SteelSeries for a couple of years, actually making headphones, keyboards, and mice for gamers there. And then, but the last 7 years, I've been happy to call Lightstream my home with our team, primarily building Lightstream Studio, but also having LightStream Cloud, which is our cloud architecture developer platform, and then Rainmaker, which provides audience analytics for brands and creators, but also gives creators tools they need to engage that audience, whether that be through a chatbot or overlays and all kinds of other stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about LightStream, the product.
Yeah. So, I mean, the origin story of LightStream is that our co-founder Aaron called and said, I'd like to control broadcast software through a browser. I think it'd be really interesting in the gaming market. This is 2014. And, the more we played around with controlling third-party software through a browser, we kind of realized that a lot of that third-party software was fairly complicated by itself. And so if we could take a look at reinventing that, we'd probably be onto something really interesting. And so we set out to build LightStream Studio. And, this is, way before any other browser-based studios existed. This is 2014, all that stuff. So, we had to develop a user interface, a control plane, if you will, in the browser. And that's what you're using right now to produce this show. But all the actual video work being done by a rendering engine that we custom built in-house. And so that sits on our servers. And, well, thousands of them sit on our servers around the world these days. But so that's kind of the story. We developed the product to solve for gamers, actually. Prior to the pandemic, the vast majority of shows on the internet were gaming related. And so we were looking for high frame rate, high motion, high color activity. And so we were solving for a really complicated section of live streaming video that's, way more complicated than just our talking heads here. And we always thought if we solve for gaming first, the rest of video should actually be pretty easy. And so that was the first 3 years of the company, is just trying to get that right for gamers. These days we get used for all kinds of things, but that's the original place. It's literally the idea is to eliminate 12 weeks of watching YouTube videos to control complicated software, but log in with your account, drag on your cameras, drag on a backdrop, give you enough creative control to place everything like you guys have, customize the layout quite a bit, and then go live in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, it was super easy. So yeah, you guys were kind of the originators, and now there's starting to be more and more of these, web-based tools appearing. How do you feel about that? How does that affect you guys?
I think competition in any market's good. It forces us to also rethink decisions we've made along the way. So I think what was interesting is just the confirmation on the direction we took. So our system is set again. The browser controls the video architecture, and when the other browser solutions came out, in the last couple of years, they did all of their compositing, which is the layering of everything together right there in the browser. So your machine would get bogged down with all that extra work because Chrome is trying to layer together all this video and encode it.
Yeah.
What's kind of funny about that is that, like, just a year or two later into building their products, they actually had to take another look and start doing it similar to how we do it. And so, I think that we have a big head start on the little gremlins that lurk in all the details of building a system and scaling a system like that. We process um, quite a number of streams every day, on demand and across the world. So I think long term, though, we kind of see a studio for every niche. If you're
Mhm.
a music platform trying to build the best platform to live stream music on, you'll probably have different production needs, different
Yeah.
features and buttons that you might need for a musician to.
Visualizers and stuff, right?
Yeah, visualizers. Maybe you want to be able to um, kind of automate some bits of that based on the music or based on other tools that a musician might use that maybe a live events panel wouldn't use, or a creative streamer who's doing kind of digital painting and wants to share that experience. And so we're looking at ways now where our technology and everything we've learned for the last 7 years can actually power a bunch of studios and not just necessarily our own.
Oh, nice. So do you have a software development kit that you're licensing out, or how does this work?
Yeah, we've had an API for years. We called LightStream Cloud, and this is basically our cloud architecture available as a developer platform. But we've been exploring ways to allow people to use that cloud faster. Like and get to their end result. So if they want to build an automated workflow that composites data on top of drone camera feeds or something, they can write that already with today's API that's been out for a couple of years. But if you wanted to build a UI, I think we're working on toolkits, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about that will help you speed and spin that up faster, so you can focus on building the platform and the community that you want to, and less on reinventing the wheel with yet another studio. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Nice. Okay. So we are live, by the way. So anyone
Yeah.
watching, here on Twitch, you just post comments underneath, and we will see them. So the first one is the League of Valiant says, "Thank you, Lightstream, for powering our content."
You're welcome.
So awesome. I don't know how we get these things to appear at the bottom. Someone else will figure that out for us, right? Um, cool. So Lightstream's been how long? 2016, or how long you been around? How long has Lightstream been around?
2014 is what I call our garage year. We were all kind of working online remotely together. 2015 is probably the first official year of the company, and kind of grew from there. So, probably roughly around 7 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
About the same as us. We shipped on mobile in 2016, and
yeah.
before that we were kind of a Windows software company, and sort of nothing is the same since.
I mean, I think like any challenging or good idea, it takes time to tune it. And then once you've tuned the actual technology, like, will it work? You've answered that question. It's like, well, will it work cost effectively? Will it work, scaled around the world? And so I think we're very proud of where we are today, and especially the architecture that powers all of it. But it has been, every bit of that journey to get it to work as well as it does. So we're, yeah. I don't know if that's a similar story for you guys, but that's,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if so, our product is Speedify, right? And
right.
it lets you use multiple internet connections in the background. Actually, maybe I'll just screen share for a second here. Will this work?
Sure.
Just so you'll get a sense. Uh, let's go on. Yes. See my Speedify window. Oh, do I have to? What did you say I need to press if I change something? Would that be it?
Update live once you get it set up on a scene. Yeah.
All right, never mind. I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah, so at this moment, so I'm on a Mac Mini. I'm plugged into Ethernet. I'm plugged into a tethered iPhone, and then I've got the Wi-Fi connected to this Android hotspot.
Yeah.
So 99% of my traffic's just going over the Ethernet because it's plenty fast, but it's Comcast. If anything happens to it, which is not impossible and has happened before, all the traffic will instantly switch over to going over the two phones, and
That's awesome.
I should be fine.
Yeah, I mean that, a good example of our products working together is we've worked with a number of streamers that stream out in the world. So a good example is they have a camera in a backpack, right? And they'd be streaming maybe from their phone, maybe not even a camera in a backpack. Let's just say they're streaming from their phone camera to our cloud, and then you can set that up on one of the scenes, like you have here. And as soon as we receive the signal from that camera, we'll go live and automatically put their graphics on it, even though they're out in the middle of the city somewhere. And so all their graphics will be there, engaging their audience, overlays, alerts, all that stuff. And what's cool is if for whatever reason, let's say you get in an elevator because you're going up to the top of a building or something to get a better shot, we'll lose signal from the camera, but your stream will stay live.
Yeah.
Because we're all, obviously on a cloud server, the stream just waits for you to reconnect and keeps your audience. There's actually some really compelling stats about, just having like a couple minutes of downtime during a live stream will lose like half your audience or something like that.
Oh, it's quick how fast people lose,
Yeah.
right?
So what's
Because
cool is like you could use Speedify also to bond a couple connections together, and then also for IRL streaming and a number of the other activities that we do. That's kind of non-traditional, if you will. But that's really cool.
yeah, I mean, so this kind of setup, Speedify is probably a little less important, right? Because I'm actually wired into an internet connection. But yeah,
Right.
as soon as people start walking around, I don't know, basically don't know how you do it without Speedify because, right? I mean, the second you walk out your front door, you're off the Wi-Fi. The stream stops.
Yeah.
So kind of brutal. So streaming platforms, there's Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. Thoughts? I mean, I mostly think of you guys as being a Twitch streaming platform. I mean, how do you feel like they're each doing, and how does somebody pick which one to do?
Well, I mean, I think it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, with Twitch, it is primarily a gaming audience that's looking for gaming content. That being said, a lot of our data shows that a lot of non-gaming content is growing like crazy across the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on. There's ASMR, there's just talking, there's I mean, even the crazy stuff like the hot tub streams, but there's a lot of non-gaming content that's on the rise across Twitch. On Facebook, it's interesting. Facebook gaming obviously is, trying to go head to head with Twitch. But I also look at Facebook Live in general as really compelling for the average person, because in those cases, I've talked about, it's kind of quality of audience versus quantity of audience. It's the difference, it's like, where do you go to just show stuff to your friends and family? And
Mhm.
so, you may not be trying to be the next big streamer, but that doesn't mean live streaming isn't something that you could do. Like, let's say you're on a trip and you wanted to show a few friends that, some experience that you're having. It's a cool way to go live to a group of people that you keep closer to you than, strangers on Twitch or something like that. So, um, I think there's a number of things that factor in when choosing a platform. YouTube's another one that I think has extremely powerful live streaming capabilities. They started on the upper side, like the enterprise side of live streaming.
Yeah.
But there's some really compelling things like, most gaming content on the internet gets watched on YouTube. So if you're going to live stream, the fact that your VODs are already on the platform where a lot of people consume gaming content or other kinds of content already, um, is another interesting reason you might choose YouTube over, say, Twitch. So it really just depends. And I think we see a lot of people try a few different platforms in their early days to kind of see where they're feeling it.
Mhm.
Um, but Where I'm really paying attention, I think, is overseas. The consolidation and the expansion at the same time of several of these kind of mega platforms, which really dwarf some of the platforms here in the U.S. in some ways.
Oh,
Um,
like, which ones?
if you're looking at like Douyu and Huya and like all these other Asian platforms that are just enormous, and then the big sleeping giant, I think, is potentially TikTok,
Mhm.
especially in a younger demographic. If you can do your short form content in the same place that you're doing your live content, you build an audience in one place, and that one place you're building an audience also happens to have a really effective way to monetize your content. It just feels very creator friendly in that regard. And so
Yeah.
you start to like wonder why fight upstream over on this other platform that seems to take a decent chunk of everything I make, when over here it feels very easy for me to get brand partnerships, for me to monetize the different types of content I'm producing on the same platform. So, you know, um, it'll be interesting to see how it develops. Instagram, does this thing where you can only go live to Instagram from the Instagram app, whereas
Yeah.
TikTok's exploring, allowing third party tools to be able to pipe content in. You could argue one keeps, one more boutique and interesting in one way, and the other like means you might get a lot of garbage content loaded on. But let's see how it plays out.
So what do
Um,
you think about, there are all these tools for Restream and stuff for streaming to all of them at once. Uh,
I think it's really powerful for brands. If you've got a brand that has a million people that are fans of it, I think streaming to a number of places wherever your fans want to watch is probably the best strategy.
right.
But if your personality, in my opinion and experience, so take that for what it's worth. I'm obviously not a famous streamer, so but as I've talked to a lot of people, that you know, I think one of the things that is most effective for growth is consistency.
Mhm.
And that goes in a number of different aspects, and we can kind of talk about that later if we want. But primarily, just like everybody knows where to go to find you.
Yeah.
And if you're the creator, like what you and I are doing now, right? If
Mhm.
you had to watch 10 chats right now, you'd probably be less effective at being the host.
Right. Right.
So like to
Yeah.
be a really engaging live creator, I think it like make it easy on yourself. See one chat, direct everybody to one location, and that does mean lock in some ways. Like I think that's why a lot of
Yeah.
people never leave Twitch, for instance, or never leave some of these other platforms. But um, I do think that if you're a personality, it's about consistency and about driving towards one location. But um, tools like Restream or us and whatnot can be really effective when you need to cast a wide net.
Yeah.
Because if you're a brand, you should make it as convenient as possible to find you.
That, that's been my logic, and I've had
Yeah,
so I we've been streaming this everywhere. Tonight we're doing a little differently, just streaming to Twitch. Um, but I've had a number of guests say that the secret to their success was when they stopped and just picked one platform,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that the audience, anyone who posted a comment, everyone saw it immediately, and they felt like they were part of a community.
I think
Um,
that's exactly right. So I don't know if you ever throw a party in a room that's too big and everyone's kind of spread out on the edges. It's like, okay, this doesn't really feel like it's fun. Same number of people, same exact people, and same number of people in a closet suddenly feels like, oh wow, this party's raging.
yeah,
So like, kind of pack everybody in a little bit and get people talking to each other. And um, yeah, biggest factor you can have for growth, I think, is really fostering the community. It's less about your content in a lot of ways and more about the community that your content fosters around your brand, around yourself, and the conversations they're having with each other without you, and hopefully
right.
with their friends that haven't seen your show yet, and that kind of thing. So it can be
Yeah, yeah.
really, yeah.
Cool. So one platform that's gone now, right? That was there in the early days was Mixer,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they were right there at the beginning with live streaming video games, and they got bought by Microsoft.
Right.
Any
Go ahead.
any thoughts about that? Any like where did they go wrong?
um,
And
all
maybe
right.
that's more than
So,
narrow discussion.
how long we got? Um, First of all, I want to say Mixer, which was originally Beam.
Right.
Matt and James and the team that built Beam were exceptionally talented and built a hell of a product. the low latency live streaming, especially doing that at scale, the community that they were fostering, the larger Beam slash Mixer community, even once Microsoft owned it, was really kind and supportive. It was really unlike anything you've seen across social media. It was, I don't mean to, I'm not going to pick on any one platform, but like it was kind of unreal how much Mixer streamers supported each other, but then their audiences actually engaged each other, and there wasn't any kind of like weird territorial stuff. It was always just kind of supportive and a happy place. It was very strange like that. Um, I think this happens in a lot of acquisitions. You get a big hug of death. It's like you get the big company that wants to just help, but its hands are too big, and it just ends up smothering and killing the baby bunny. Like it's like I think that Microsoft wanted to bring all of its clout to bear to grow an awesome platform and awesome tech, and that ultimately kind of led to its demise. I mean, um, I think they spent way too much money in too many of the wrong areas too soon. That Mixer started to look like a really expensive line item than a benefit to the business.
Yeah.
And so it's just a little bit of mismanagement. I mean, the influencer spending alone, like paying what they did for Ninja, which was just kind of insane in the first place. Not that he's like, good for him. I'm not mad about that, but more like then you shut down the platform a year into that contract. And so you not only blew that money, but you blew 2 years of it. You don't get anything out of it. Like that
Right,
was the
right.
crazy part. And so like just stuff like that. They needed to spend $30 million on their engineering team and their marketing team. Um, at one point, our video engineering team was bigger than Mixer's video engineering team when we were partners with them, and they eventually outgrew us, obviously, because they got bigger.
Really?
But yeah, it was just like, I mean, they were really strapped for resources, and the money was getting spent on giant booths at the Brazil game show as opposed to more hiring for the team. So you had a lot of really smart, really kind, really dedicated people. I have nothing bad to say about a lot of the people that I met that worked at Mixer. I think they tried really hard to build something that was really, really compelling, and it could have been even bigger. So, like, let me be abundantly clear: those people were
Yeah.
awesome, and we really liked working with them. I just think the logistics of such a big parent company just really kind of mussed it up, and eventually ended up in them looking at it and going, we've mussed it up bad enough to where saving this will cost us far more than focusing on other areas we're more excited about, which is what you saw them do. They shut down and then they started buying game studios and focusing. Like, think about like Microsoft's energy in the gaming market is 100% on Game Pass. Like,
Yeah.
and that maniacal focus will probably lead them to a massive amount of success. Um, I
Yeah.
think it would have been cool to
Fair
have
enough.
Mixer be part of that strategy, but I get why they didn't at where Mixer ended up being by the time it did. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it would
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
a cool part of this kit of like new game studio launches a new game under the Microsoft umbrella, give it to all of our Mixer streamers and get them all to promote and show off gameplay of that game. Could have been awesome part of the marketing mix. They should have treated it like a massive promotional vehicle, and instead it got treated more like a its own business and line item on the budget. So yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because they're selling the platforms. They're getting a cut of the royalties on every game. You know,
Yeah, they did it just slightly the wrong way. I always thought
they
Mixer
don't.
was like a
Yeah.
cool virtual couch. We always used to go over to your buddy's house and watch them play video games. Like,
Yeah.
maybe Mixer didn't have to beat Twitch at having all the biggest famous streamers. What it needed to do is be like a place you could stream to 20 of your closest friends, and you obviously have an influence over them. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, if it's a virtual couch, how many of those people can you get to buy the game that you're currently playing? So you start building in features that say, I'm currently playing this, get that for 5% off, like all these little details of like the middle class of streamers, as
Yeah.
opposed to just going after the upper echelon. And somebody at Mixer had big designs on having all the famous streamers, and I think that was the wrong move. I think it was more about the lower to middle tier audiences and the network effect that is how big those can get.
Yeah.
But it just I didn't work there, so
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about advice for streamers,
yeah.
right? So somebody wants to get started as a streamer today. Where would you start if you were them? I mean, you sort of start off with no audience, and I just want to get online and get people watching me.
I mean, I think like anything in this life, I think the first question to ask is why. What are you in it for? Is this, are you trying to be the next ninja? Or are you trying to tell 20 people a great story every week? What does this mean to you? And what are your kind of your like just having a general idea of that I think helps structure the rest. So that aside, um,
Mhm.
I think I said it earlier with consistency. I think the vast majority of streamers that grow quickly or that grow even not quickly but steadily, it's all about consistency. It's here's my schedule. I am online from these hours, and even if that schedule changes on a quarterly basis or whatnot, I think um, your viewers knowing that when they get off of work at 8 p.m., you're going to be live. It's like any good TV show. If TV shows times they were live changed every week, it'd be very hard to keep up with the show, your favorite show.
I
So
know
like,
that's what happened to Firefly, right?
it's like how you
Best
build
show
this
ever,
audience,
but every
right?
episode was shown at a different time. And they canceled it in half a season. Still bitter.
Yeah, we all are. We all are. But it's really about that consistency. Here's where you can expect to find me, and I reliably make that happen. And consistency in the content. So, and it doesn't have to be like you only stream one game, but more like consistency in the personality. How do you engage the audience? How do you engage, be yourself in that moment? Because it's a lot easier to be consistent with your personality when you're authentically who you are every day
Yeah.
for the most part. So, so I think those are like the main. Anything else I'd say would probably be too nuanced, but consistency and understanding why you're doing it every day, I think is really the
So
big thing. Yeah.
how do you pick a time slot? So I mean, I'm doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. It was kind of just convenient for me. Like, are you better off in the morning, at night, during the workday, outside like,
I think that's exactly why we built.
and their time zones, so it's always wrong. No matter what you pick, you're always wrong for somebody.
I mean, I think that's that's kind of exactly why we built the Rainmaker data tools that we did. I mean, like the ability to log in and see where you're attracting more audience. Is it when you play, Red Dead Redemption, or is it when you play Halo? Is it, on Wednesday morning, or is it on Thursday night that you get more of an audience or more growth? Like giving people the tools they need to see where their growth is happening is super important. But also, like, frankly, if you're streaming at times you hate, you're probably going to be pretty bad at streaming at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
My buddy once told me a story that every time he has a friend who like loves to do stuff he hates. So he's like, what would suck right now if I had to do 10 push-ups? And then he gets on the ground and he does 10 push-ups. He's like, yep, this sucks right now. Like, I like, I don't know what that says about this man, but my point being is like, don't sign yourself up for things that you can't be consistent at again. Like
Yeah,
if your New Year's resolution is to work out every day, but you've picked 5 a.m. as your new workout time, but you've never woken up at 5 a.m. in your life, like you're just setting yourself up for failure. So I think what you did is, it worked for you. It's the end of the
yeah.
workday, knock it out Tuesdays and Thursdays, get a show done. Like that feels like you'll be able to stick to it. And that leads back to the first point, which is consistency. So, um, tweak over time, I guess, as you become, get more and more of an audience. But yeah.
So Scotty Two Cats is asking, how have things changed for Lightstream since the acquisition by Creative Solutions? That's right. You guys got bought in, was it April? Or am I off by a year?
No, you're right. No, that's right. So April of yeah, last year. Um, how have things changed for us? We're taking a longer term view, and if you've ever worked at a startup, you can be a little reactionary to what you're seeing happening in the business today, instead of
Mhm.
taking a step back and going, okay, well, if we let this play out or that play out, here's how. So one of the benefits of being part of a larger organization is that we get to look at kind of not just what should we do over the next couple months to change, how to help our creators, what, but if we were to fundamentally like rethink X concept, how could that play out over a couple years? And especially, how could that play out over a couple years with new types of creators that we've been exposed to thanks to creative solutions? Now, studio has been built largely for the one person show. Somebody who needs
Mhm.
to come in, maybe do a panel, stuff like this, but largely runs a show by themselves, maybe a podcast, live event, something like that. But it's not built for like say a 10-person production team, to necessarily like bring in all this extra hardware and all that stuff. And so part of Creative Solutions is Teradek, and they do a lot of live production products. And so we're looking at ways that how does our cloud architecture support the types of creators that they work with? How does our studio adapt to a workflow that's similar to somebody producing a live show? We work on a scenes and layers model, which is similar to OBS or some of the others.
Mhm.
But for those of you that have worked in any kind of professional production, there's a much more linear flow where you're kind of pushing through different assets and things like that. And so, we're looking at how do we adapt that UI and whatnot. So I think it's like a little bit more creative freedom than kind of reactions. We've done a lot of really smart long-term things over the years, but there's also been plenty of times where we had to react very quickly to some shifting wind, like an entire live streaming platform shutting down, who's one of your largest partners. So, having the stability allows us to really sit down and plan accordingly for what could be other opportunities and other places we can help. So I'd say that's the biggest change. But overall, Lightstream is still its own company, part of the Creative Solutions umbrella. Our team still reports up through the same way they have the last 6 years. We still have the same awesome teammates and same awesome culture
So
that we've
it, it
always had.
it hasn't gotten more bureaucratic.
No, not internally. I mean, I my job certainly changed. I mean, instead of having investors and a board of investors, I now work with a head office and the rest of the creative solutions group. And so maybe parts of that are definitely a bigger company feeling, but internally at Lightstream, it feels, much the same. I think, we've defined success for ourselves as, and I've said this in interviews before because it's been the same answer for years, but can we do what we love with people we love for as long as we can? And so none of that's changed. We still very much enjoy what we're working on and the people that we get to work on it with. So we're very, very happy for that.
That's awesome. Um, so I know I think we'll do another. We'll have you back for another episode
Sure.
about Rainmaker. But why don't you just explain it briefly? Because you brought it up, and it's a really interesting product.
Yeah.
Maybe we spend 5 minutes on it before we get going.
Yeah. Um, so there's two like kind of key aspects to what Rainmaker is. And so let's first talk about kind of what we call like engage. And that's like it's not an official product name. It's just like the act of engaging your audience, right? And so
Mhm.
you have the basics. This isn't anything that, Lightstream or Rainmaker invented, but the idea of dynamic alerts and overlays, motion graphics on your stream that are triggered by some audience behavior, whether that's getting a new follow, a new subscriber, somebody said something in chat, any of that kind of stuff. And so this stuff allows people to affect your stream, obviously see their own name appear. Hopefully that encourages other community members to take a similar action, like follow you, subscribe. And so all of that's there. We have a chatbot system that lets your users ask questions of the chatbot that might be repetitive and not, does not have to repeat like your schedule, for instance. That chatbot can also help moderate and put special messages in there. All of that kind of stuff. The other side of it is measure. This essentially is how do we help you understand? This is I'm gonna speak only from the creator's perspective first, but
Mhm.
how do we help you understand where you're getting more audience? Whether that be time of day, type of game, day of the week, whatever. But you can look at your analytics for your last, several streams. You can click on any one of those streams and see a breakdown in 10-minute chunks of your audience, and it'll be color coded based on what game you were playing at the time. And so you can see that, like, when you started playing, Fortnite, your viewership started going down, but when you switched to Witcher 3, everybody loved it. And so you start to get like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not a multiplayer guy. Maybe I am more closer to, these adventure games. My audience seems to respond better to that. So you can start to really like define a content strategy. Um, and then the last part for us is about connecting brands, whether those be game publishers, developers, or other kinds of brands, and creators. And the biggest way we do that now is that game publishers will pay for Rainmaker. And the brand side of this looks like all the stats I just told you about are now available to the brand. They can see any streamer across multiple platforms, see what kind of content. So, say I'm launching the next great cowboy game, I can see who the top 20 streamers for Red Dead Redemption were in the last year.
Ah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I can see, and so I can start to do some research to see who I should be working with, or the people that I already am working with, I can build a report to collect data so I understand how well is that working out for us. And it makes the relationship easier too, because it's not subjective; it becomes objective. How is this working? At least a component of it does. Um, but I can also upload. So, Sam, ready to launch my new cowboy game? We don't need to come up with a name for this. I'll let you work on that while I continue with the story. But I can upload 5,000 copies, game keys for various platforms, and I can say, well, I only want streamers, but with 50, an average of 50 concurrent viewers and 100 concurrent viewers to be able to get a copy of this game. So I can set some eligibility requirements, and now when creators come to Rainmaker and I go to promote this, they can apply to get a copy of the game. If their stats match the eligibility requirements, might auto approve them. They get emailed a copy of the game, and now they're automatically added to a report that says, that tracks how often I've streamed that game and what the
Nice.
audience was like and what was said and so on. And so now as a game developer, I can give out, 1,000 copies of my game and then get all the audience stats back in one easy report. And so I can go back to my boss and say, hey, giving out 1,000 copies of our game actually got this much audience, and this is what people are saying. Very recently, and this will be the kind of icing on the cake, is we partnered with another company named Spike Trap, and so we actually overlay sentiment data on top of all of this, so we can actually see like
Uh,
brand safety scores and chat sentiment on a given stream. So we can see like, oh well, they were streaming our game and chat hated it, or at least hated this stream for
right,
some
right.
reason, or they
So
hated
this is
this stream.
analyzing the text, looking for
Yeah,
angry words or happy words,
that's exactly right.
right?
And
And you know,
it's all
make
completely anonymized, but it gets you like just a general vibe check, if you will. We don't know
yeah,
what any
yeah.
individual person, said. It's more like the analysis happening in real time, and that's done on Spike Trap's side. It's one of their expertise, and we're very happy to be partnered with them. But so what's cool though is we're bringing like what's usually a very, very expensive data point that's only available to brands, and we're also making that available to streamers. And so you as a creator now have tools that usually cost a brand, tens of thousands of dollars a month to get access to on their side. As a creator, you now have access to this so you can rep yourself, so you can start to understand, am I building a community that's happy? Am I building a community that's a little bit toxic in one capacity or another? And how do I adjust to change that so I can, either A, work with more brands, or B, work with no brands because I want it to be like, the worst community on the planet. I don't know. Like, but point is, you
Yeah.
have the data to make the decision to be a hero or a villain in this area. So, yeah,
um, so I guess another question that I think a lot of people, when they start getting success, there's a question of like sponsorships and stuff.
yeah,
How do they find sponsors? And probably even harder, how do they figure out what to charge? Or, how to like,
yeah. This is
getting going in the business seems getting that first dollar seems like the hardest part.
yeah. I mean, this is something we've talked about for years. We've brand opportunities typically go to the probably top 1% of streamers. That's not a don't quote me on that, but I think largely because, I mean, think about everything that has to go into you being introduced and building a relationship with a brand who's willing to write you a check every month to do a thing. I mean, you'd have to, one, get the meeting in the first place, wherever that might happen. Out of
Mhm.
the thousands of emails they probably get a week of people hoping to get sponsored, make that happen, have your content stand out, and so on. And so ultimately, a brand typically goes and looks out at the market, not usually from inbound. It's usually they go out and they go, oh, well, these streams look like they have a decent audience, look like they're well within our brand safety guidelines and so on. We're just going to go with
Mhm.
these. And so, where are they looking? Usually the top of the stack, who's got the most viewers and what's the price point there.
Yeah.
So, you know, what our product aims to do is through data and automation, I think long term, give brands the confidence to invest in smaller and smaller creators. It's our
Yeah.
long term bet that the aggregate audience of the middle class of streamers is much larger than the upper echelon of creators. And it's not that the upper echelon, shouldn't have brand deals or that they will ever hurt for them. They will, in fact, always have that opportunity because brands like Nike, who have unstoppable marketing budgets, will always exist. But if I'm like, even take Lightstream for instance, we're a very medium-sized company. The ability to go out and say sponsor a few streamers is something that we're going to take and try to be as specific as possible about, right? We need every dollar to count. And so looking at, what creators are engaging their audience really effectively for us. Are they, streaming to an audience of people who typically play, X type of games or do X kind of content. So like having the data and automation that gives me the confidence to invest more dollars in smaller creators, one makes the money making opportunity available to like 80% of streamers instead of 1%. But
Yeah.
two means that I'm going to keep doing that as a brand. I can feel confident I can do this every month. I can keep investing in this space. So, have we do we have all the answers on how we're going to solve that long term? No, but I think that's the driving thesis behind what we're doing on Rainmaker. It's over
Right.
time we will slowly get right the pieces you need to democratize the economic opportunity in this space as much as we can.
Yes. The problem for big companies, I mean, is the transaction costs, right? You'd think if you're a medium-sized streamer, if they give you $1,000 a month and you manage to sell $3,000 a month worth of their game, that would be a good deal. They're tripling their money. But it turns out like they have to have people negotiate the deal with you. They have to check in whether or not you really did what you said. They have to check all these
That's
things.
right.
And in the end, they have to, a big company will spend thousands of dollars every month just verifying that their partners are behaving themselves and doing what they said and, all that stuff. So they can't just do small deals with you. Right.
Right. I mean, it's like cost prohibitive. You can't have a relationship with 1,000 creators, right, to spend the same amount of money. And so I totally agree. I think that's one of the reasons why our game key feature is so popular with a lot of the publishers that we work with. Is the old way of doing it was, I mean, shoot, marketing at SteelSeries when I was there. We would sponsor several esports teams. We'd have people watch those streams to make sure they said what they said they were going to say, that they placed the logo in the corner, that they didn't skew that or like put it in the wrong spot, that they talked about the keyboard at some point in their stream, and so on and so forth. And so it's just like this manual verification process. And so the sponsorship becomes probably double what it is in just monetary value to the creator. So if
Yeah.
you can automate as much of that away as possible, that's either a more money that can go to the creator, or b more money that the brand saves to invest at a later date. Either way, that money continues to flow into the ecosystem. And I think that's um, a really compelling way of looking at it. Good
Yeah.
call.
Cool. Um, So one thing we talk about a lot is streamergencies, right? These are spots where you're doing a live stream and the technology just fails you. Internet connections or really anything else.
Streamergency. The stressful situation when one's live stream breaks down or cuts out unexpectedly.
Boom, and there you go. Technology gone wrong. Although in this case, it was a simulated gone wrong. A message from our sponsor. But Stu, seriously, have you had any live streaming technology disasters
Disasters.
or near disasters?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I think like the nature of the business is something always goes wrong to some degree or another, and like I think half the game is not preventing it, but just having quick mitigation methods. But
Yeah,
we
yeah.
did. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name or not, so I'll go on the safe route and say we did a uh, one of the most prestigious music award shows in the U.S. at least, but definitely internationally as well. We did the red carpet stream for that show in partnership with IBM Watson and a few other folks that were involved. And so they had a production truck on site that was streaming up and off the premises. So there was obviously interviews happening and so on the red carpet. Um, and we were responsible for receiving that feed from the red carpet, compositing on IBM Watson was watching the stream. So the supercomputer was watching the stream and doing. Do you remember VH1 pop-up video?
Yeah.
So Watson's job was to
Bumble.
like recognize a celebrity and then pop up an interesting fact about them. It did it really well. And so it'd be
That's
like,
good.
oh, this person won one of these awards and blah blah blah. And so we were layering on the graphics that system would produce. And anyway, uh, for whatever reason, we had tested for several days in advance. We went live, and there was a network blip, and the guy in the truck had an aneurysm, like freaked out that the stream was going to go down. And luckily, we had set up a redundant server doing the same work in a different region, and it auto flipped over. And the only person who noticed this blip in the entire broadcast almost going down was the guy in the truck. Uh, he let us know that it happened, but the automatic, failover actually worked as it was planned. But we didn't think we were going to need it, and sure enough, there it was on the very first flip of the switch to turn it on. It needed to flip over, so could have been bad, but the show went on and everything was fine.
A
So
lot to be said for redundancy, right?
yeah, a lot.
Have two of everything,
Yeah,
and have them ready to go.
right. So so yeah, I'd say that was probably what could have been our biggest public stream emergency. But yeah.
Nice. So do you stream yourself any? I mean, I see you're interviewed all the time.
Um, yeah, sometimes. So we do a stream as a team. So LightStream will stream some games. We just play a game together for the community and hang out. Usually once a week or a couple times a month at least. And then I have done a bunch of music streams over
You
the years.
DJ, right?
Yeah, from time to time. So love a good dance floor, so I have a little fun doing that. But nothing like consistent or that I'm like trying to start up a music channel or anything for. It's more just like, when the mood strikes, it'll be a little fun to put on some music today. So, but yeah.
That's fun. By the way, we're live, so if you have any questions for Stu, just post them underneath. And if you're interested in this sort of thing, me talking to interesting people doing stuff with streaming, follow us. We're not trying to sell anything here. Well, vaguely, I'm trying to sell Speedify, but we're not charging anything for the content. So, follow us.
Right.
And Stu, of course, is CEO of LightStream. So what streamers do you actually follow and watch?
I typically watch some of my friends. So I've got a few friends that are streamers. So I'll tune in to check them out and see what they're streaming. So Optic Diesel, Mike Carr is a longtime friend of mine. So you can check him out at Twitch TV, DI3SEL. And then Mrs. May is also a good friend of mine. She streams on Facebook. But occasionally I'll tune in to watch her. But that's mostly because I miss them, and so it's easy to tune in and watch the show. They live in a different city than I do, so sometimes when I'm cooking around and I happen to see their live, I'll tune in. And then my buddy Tucker, he has a specific show that I like to watch, which is Premium Internet. His name's Jericho on Twitch, but he kind of scrolls through various internet content. And, it's usually pretty good to have on in the background while I'm getting a bunch of stuff done. So, yeah.
Does he mock it, or what does he do with it?
Yeah, well, he's either, because his community recommends it, and so it's like he's either mocking the content or the person who submitted it because it's not funny, like something like that. So, like, yeah, but it's pretty good to like. It's not anything you have to like really watch. You can kind of glance over it from time to time. So I enjoy it.
All right. So
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Kane is asking you a question. If you want, you can take it.
What activity or hobby do you wish was live streamed but is not? That's a good question. I feel like a lot of the amateur sports get live streamed well, and music for the most part does. Although music's really lacking, I think, the potential that music streaming has, because I think like more venues could do live streaming, but like as a promotional tool. So like say you weren't thinking about, but you want to see who the opening band is right tonight over at like Shuba's Tavern or something like that. So they could go
Mhm.
live for the beginning and then just skip the headliner. Just shut it off. Like you have to come down to check out. Like if you want to see the show, you got to come down. But it could be like, I just see some really interesting ways that venues could use this as like, if I haven't quite gotten out the door yet, I could tune in and kind of hear like what's, something. But hobby that isn't live streamed, um, anything that skiing, I guess. But that would only be like,
There's probably somebody. I mean,
it's funny. We're talking to somebody right now about live streaming some skiing competitions, and the challenge is a number of things. But I've always loved ski movies as a kid, like like the real Daredevil ski movies and stuff like that. I just always wondered if you could have like good first person content of somebody like skiing for the day. It could be kind of actually fun to tune into for a while. But I can't think of. I'm having a hard time thinking of things that aren't live streamed. I mean,
yeah.
like they live stream
Y-
everything from Eagles Nest to like, like it's like yeah. I all content has been tried. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Kane, I'm curious.
I,
I'm
I,
curious if you
I,
have an
lo-
answer to the same question, Kane. So drop it in chat
what,
if you've
what are
got
you
one.
missing, Kane?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that all the rocket launches now are live streamed.
Oh my God.
I
I know,
watch that.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, Teradek actually, our sister company, I guess it would be, here at Creative Solutions, does a lot of work with SpaceX team to get those things
oh,
done.
really?
So yeah, it's pretty cool. As a young nerd, I never thought I'd be able to uh, get so much detail and production around something that I love. It was always something you just heard about or you saw on broadcast television, as
Yeah, yeah.
opposed to all the detail you get all of launch day now, and you get all the data
Yeah,
and
yeah. You
everything.
watch for hours. And sometimes I do.
Well, I
But
like the idea of a choose your own adventure. Like, do I take this run or that run? Yeah, I've been a I've been a lifelong skier. Maybe I'm the guy to do this. Like, I need an earpiece. I need to be able to see chat. Like,
double
sounds like
diamond, double diamond.
it sounds like a real great way to get injured, but
That's my first thought, but I'm
you
a
know,
wimp.
yeah.
uh, so 2022, who would have thought? You guys have goals for the year, either
Yeah.
personally or for the business?
Um, Personally, not specifically for the year. I think I'm always, trying to stay focused, better care of myself, all the usuals. For the business, I think we're looking at, for years it was studio needed to make the experience of OBS easier. It was like, okay, OBS is out there. It's a great piece of software. It's its own thing, but it can be very difficult to learn right off the bat. It's not impossible to learn, obviously, but it's just like if you just, it can be a stepping stone, or rather a hurdle to overcome to learn this piece of software that can do anything you want if you can only grasp it. And so, the name of the game for our first few years was like, can we help you get to a professional, good feeling live stream in a shorter amount of time and a much
Hmm.
more, and then provide you things like Green Room was what we're using now is way ahead of its time. There was nothing else that had it when we came up with it in 2015. So all of that to say that I think the strategy has shifted now to say, well, studio is not going to be the one-stop tool for everybody, and neither is OBS and neither is a lot of this other software. You can build something powerful, and yes, it can be used for anything. But I think there are, say, I'm building a live events platform, and I have my job is to provide a really cool front end experience for attending a live event, right? But
Right.
my customers are people who want to put on a live event. But now I need to tell my customers to go learn Lightstream or go learn OBS or go learn vMix, and then you can stream to my product and get value out of my product, and then stream to your audience. And
Yeah.
it's like, then we talked to a bunch of these companies, and the more we talked to them, it was like, what about this concept of being able just to have a Lightstream studio inside of your virtual events platform? So your customers come to throw in a live event, and the tools they need which is probably far less than what our LightStream Studio offers. The vast majority of like putting on a panel or something like that, it's probably less feature rich than our gaming first detailed product that is LightStream Studio. So you could build a boutique or that's the wrong word, bespoke experience for what your customers want to do to have success with your platform. And so, we see live streaming, creative, music, virtual events, podcasting, and all of these production workflows are going to differ, and the integrations you'd want for each of them are going to differ. And so, we're looking at ways to have more things powered by LightStream. It's not that LightStream Studio is going to go anywhere. We love that product. It does, it's very successful for a lot of people. But I think looking at the world as how do we empower more tools? How do we empower more product teams to take advantage of what we've been honing for 7 years, and really enable that? And we have dozens of projects in the works with outside parties that are on their way to building those kinds of experiences. So that's what kind of our big goal of the next year is how do we take what we know, what we've learned, what we've built, and empower other product teams, with those capabilities so they can do what we've always intended to do, which was to empower more storytellers and grow the communities in which they tell them. So
that's great. Yeah, I feel similarly. Speedify is awesome. It runs in the background, makes people's streams better, but it's one more tool.
Yeah.
Like anyone needed one more app. So we're at, now,
yeah.
I haven't been coding for a while, but right now I'm writing an OBS plugin to
for Speedify.
add Speedify right into OBS. So when you start streaming, it connects.
That's awesome.
And the stats are right there, so you don't have yet another window to look at and all that stuff. And we'll see. Starting to talk to people,
We should put Speedify in our mobile app.
You should put Speedify in your mobile app.
Let's talk about it.
It's a nice library you can drop in with none of our user interface if you want. So we really should talk about it. That's it. We're doing business.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. So we're coming up on 6 o'clock. So I want to thank everybody. Everybody who commented, everybody who watched, Stu for being here. My next stream is Thursday, just at 10 a.m. Eastern. Not being consistent, but it's Zach from Zach's Tech Turf. His business, right, is live streaming, building custom PCs. So you order from him some high-end PC with huge amounts of memory and high-end graphics cards and stuff, and he live streams as they make your PC.
No, that's cool.
And his streams have become very popular, and on top of that, he's selling a lot of PCs. So he's kind of double dipping there. All right, one last question from Ryan here. Do you play any video games, Stu? Do you have any time? Or are you too busy running the company?
Historically speaking, I struggle to find the time as much as I love gaming. But this year, I've been making the time with some friends. So lately, I've been playing Halo, the new Halo Infinite on PC. So having a lot of fun with that with a group of friends, including some of the LightStream folks. And then if I'm looking for something casual, I've been playing Foregone on Switch, which is like a really fun side scroller that I'm really enjoying. So yeah, those are probably two. Oh, and then always Rocket League.
Right.
So try to sneak those in where I can. But never.
A totally weird thing. I built. Speaking of Halo, I built Bungie's first website.
Did you really?
1994, 1995, back when the game was Marathon.
Do you have any? Do you have any stock options for the deal that just happened yesterday?
They fired me and shut down the website because, and this is a funny story, it got too much feedback. We put a comment form, and they had thousands of people a day asking when the new game was going to be out. And they're like, "This thing's a pain in the ass," and they shut it down. The end of me. So no, I didn't get a fraction of a penny out of this $3.6 billion.
Got it.
I was gone. So that's one of my very sad success stories. Uh,
Do we have time for another question? Kane asked a question.
yeah,
Do you mind if I answer it?
yeah, go for it. You know.
Kane, you asked, did I set out to be a CEO? And if not, how did it all come to be, and how do I manage it? My mom's got a pretty funny birthday cake picture of me from being a kid, where I had started my own company at 12 called Stewie G Productions. I didn't know what I did at the time, but I knew that was the name of the company. So I think I've always wanted to have a business of some sort. That's what I did. Instead of mowing lawns as a kid, I like fixed people's computers around the neighborhood, and I had a business doing that, and I had a phone number they could call to fix things and like all kinds of stuff. But I then worked, several jobs for other people at smaller companies. I never wanted to work for a big company, so I worked at a bunch of small companies and learned a lot of different things. Here at Lightstream, I was not hired to be the CEO. I was invited as a product person. I had seen a lot of things in the gaming industry. Aaron wanted my advice on what, kind of the prototype that the existing founders were trying to figure out. So I then asked Aaron, who's building it, and he said, "Our this guy Dan that I know." And I said, "Who's designed this? This looks nice." And I said, "That's Ryan, who's actually in chat, I think." And so we just were kind of waxing poetic about what Lightstream could be and what the product needed to be, and so on. But then when we started looking at lawyers and to get the company formed, and started looking at how we do hiring processes, and who we'd invite on the team, and what decisions needed to get made quickly, and so on, and raising money and all that kind of stuff. Um, I just seemed like I had the aptitude for it. I knew the people. I knew like fairly organized guy. Know how to tell a good story. So on and
Yeah,
so forth. And
obviously.
so, it kind of it became me. And I think that the challenge. I remember actually Aaron and I having this conversation, just to put a bow on this. About 6 months after I kind of took on this role, and Aaron took on the role of a chief operating officer, and I go, we all get to be leaders in this company by default because there's only 4 of us right now. But eventually, either the business will outgrow us, or if we don't keep, a pace with the learnings that we need to get to grow this team, and to still be effective in our roles as leaders here. So, I spent a lot of time reading, educating myself, getting mentors, asking for help, like meeting other people that had played my role at different sizes, and so so that's how I managed it. I learned on the job, but I took that job with the weight of responsibility that it required, and learned as fast as I could. And so far, so good. I don't think I've made every right decision. I don't think anybody does in their life. But it's guided us this far. And this team, by the way, I would like, it's not just obviously the CEO. There's 6 people on our leadership team that I highly respect at their given areas of focus and discipline at this time. And the 6 of us together make up the whole that's kind of led us to where we are today. So proud of that. If I'm proud of one thing, I'm definitely proud of the leadership team that I was able to keep around me.
So you guys did great.
So far, so good.
Congratulations on the acquisition.
Thank you. Yeah, we're in that place. The new place is full of really nice people and really smart people. So we're still getting to know everybody and all that. But yeah, we're very excited about the things we'll do together.
That's awesome.
So,
all right.
Thanks for having me. By the way, this is a great conversation. It was really nice
for
to talk to
coming.
you.
Yeah, this is awesome. And we'll follow up. We'll follow up about our Speedify library.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd love that.
All right. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hope to see you next Thursday.